Okay, we have done our calibration test. First point to note is that we were using a touchscreen, a 4.3-inch touchscreen here. We were using one of these guys here. We found the response time of the touchscreen itself, trying to adjust the thermostat or trying to adjust the temperatures, was actually very slow. So we changed out the touchscreen, did nothing more to the software. We're still sticking with, just to get the correct number on the software. It is on the touchscreen. So we're still dealing with 18.5.16-16, so still have the same software. But the touchscreen itself was slow to respond, so that's nothing to do with our software, but something maybe to think about in the future. What we've done is, like we said, we've recorded all the data from the thermostats as they stood without any calibration. Then adjusted all the thermostats to 24 degrees and then recorded all the temperature again after about a 30-minute period. And we found that, yes, the calibration was improved. But we did notice that there is a difference between whether we're using a probe, the cheap type of probes on the inputs to our, and I'm just going to put this on here. Give us over here. So basically, these guys here. So going into our logic boxes, R10i8s, when we used those type of probes, we found that there was a bit of a variation in them. They weren't quite as good as the existing, the newer type bead sensor that we're using. Basically, I'm just going to grab one of them here. So this is the old type. Let's see if I'm using it here. There we go. There we go. There's the old type. You can see it's a little bit of a bigger head here. And I'm just going to grab one of the newer ones. These ones are a little bit more expensive. Now I'm going to hold the two of them up here so you can see both. Okay. There we go. Okay. This is the newer one here. Okay, that one there is the newer one. This one here is the older. You can see that the newer one is slightly smaller. Now what we're finding is that the newer one is actually a better temperature hold on that. So there's less variation in it. Okay, I'm just going to stick this guy back in here. I'm just putting it back into its position. So we found that the digital sensors with these new probes are actually extremely accurate. They worked out quite well. I'll just put that back in here. So sorry, this is that one. Okay. Okay, so the digital sensors had, after calibration, had the change between the 24 degrees and what we set it to. Now, temperature did change. The question was, did it change by much? What was the variation? The variation in the digital sensors was nearly zero. Okay, so I think we 0.1 of a degree. Basically, not to worry about. However, in the digital in the other sensors, we had quite a large variation. You could have gone maybe about 1.8 on that particular case. So that was a lot more. There, on the Logic Box 3, on inputs 1 through 6. 1 through 6. So that's Logic Box 3, inputs 1 through 6. And I'm just going to highlight them here. We had a variation on those. These are the newer type of stats. And on those ones, these are the probes, but they're into the R10i8s this time. In the R10i8s, they had a variation of about 0.5. So I'm just going to highlight them in yellow, so as you can see where those guys are if you go looking at the spreadsheet. Whereas in blue, those same probes are with the digital stats, and they're down to 0.1. But when you're looking at the old probes in the R10i8s, you've got a quite large variation. You got maybe 1.7. So I would get from this that using a digital stat is actually going to calibrate and hold the calibration better than if you're using an R10i8. But overall, did calibration work? Was I able to do it? The answer is yes, and it was a significant. If I look at the, let's say, the difference between a max and a min prior to calibration, we had a maximum difference between max and min of any thermostat of about 3.5 degrees. After calibration, including the old stats and all the rest, that went down to 1.8. So obviously the calibration had a significant improvement in the variation in temperature. Okay, so overall that was a pass.